So today's lesson is going to be on adverbs. So just before we begin, I'd like you to remind me what you remember about what a verb is. And hopefully the student should remember that a verb is a doing word. It's an action like eating, sleeping, or talking. But an adverb is very different to a verb. An adverb describes a verb or an adjective. And just for today, we're just going to look at how adverbs describe verbs. There are several types of adverbs, and today's lesson is going to look at adverbs of manner. Adverbs of manner tell us how things happen. So we can look at the examples here in green. The first sentence is I talk loudly. So I'd have the student highlight the verb in that sentence, which is talk. And the adverb is loudly. So if I cover up the adverb, we're just left with the sentence I talk. We don't know anything more about how I talk. We don't know if I'm quiet or if I talk quickly. So we then add the adverb back into the sentence, and now we know more about what's happening. So we know that I talk loudly. And then with the next sentence is, without the adverb, it's just he eats. And then adding the adverb back in tells us how he eats. So the word greedily, the adverb, describes the verb, eats. And then in the last sentence, I'd have the student highlight the verb again, because the addition of the object, the flute, might make things a little bit more complicated. So we know that the verb is plays, and then again, we want to know how she plays the flute. We want to know more than the fact that she just plays. So we add the adverb in, and now we know that she plays the flute well. So how do we identify adverbs in a sentence? Well, first you want to look for the verb. Look for the doing word. So in all these sentences, it's talk, eats, and plays. Those are all the verbs. Then you want to look for the words that are describing the verbs. So they're telling you more information about what's happening in the sentence and how something is happening. So that's how you get to the adverbs loudly, which tells us about how I am talking. So here on the right, I'd give the student a chance to identify adverbs on their own. So hopefully they're able to identify all of the verbs, walked, sing, and slept. And then they're able to highlight slowly, beautifully, and peacefully. So now that we can identify adverbs in a sentence that someone else has made, we now want to be able to make our own sentences and make our own adverbs. Because in our sentences, we also want to tell people how something is happening. So how do we do that? Well, we know an adverb describes a verb. So can you think of something else that describes things? And hopefully the student would get to the answer of an adjective, which is a describing word. So to make adverbs, we can start off with adjectives and add ly on the end to make the adverb. So again, let's start with I talk loudly. Here, the adjective is loud. So the person writing the sentence wanted to tell people that I am loud. So they got the adjective loud and added ly to make the adverb. And again with greedily, the adjective is greedy, and then you add ly to get the adverb. So again, I'd have the student identify the adjectives in the sentences on the right. So you would have slow to add ly to get to slowly, and the same with beautiful and peaceful. But then I would also emphasize that that's not a blanket rule. So the adverb here is well. Now that doesn't end in ly, so you can see that you can't always add ly to the end of an adjective to get to the adverb. So there are different rules for some different words, and you just have to be careful. So now I'd like you just to match up the adverb to the adjective. So on the left here you have all the adjectives, and I'd like you to get to the adverbs on the right. and I would give the student about a minute or two to just be able to line all of these up. And again, they might struggle a little bit with good and well, but I think that is a good one to learn, a different word to learn that's outside of the ly rule. So now that we've had practice, I'd like to get the student to finish all the sentences here on the right. So I would have them highlight the correct adverb to use. The purpose of this one here is to make sure that they understand the purpose of an adverb is to describe the verb. So they want to pick the adverb that's most suitable for the verb and the context of the sentence. So they should highlight that they pick up the kitten carefully, and then I ride my bike fast, fast being another outsider to the ly rule. And then the final one is I do my homework happily. And then the final practice for the student would be to make their own sentence. So this would just have them use all of the knowledge of identifying an adverb and making their own adverb, and using verbs to create their own sentence involving an adverb. So I'd have them do it based on this picture of a man running, and I would help them if they were stuck. So I'd suggest maybe they start off with he runs, and then hopefully they can make their own adverbs, such as quickly. And that would be my sample lesson of how I would teach a student adverbs.